PrintBoss. Now, this guy, PrintBoss. PrintBoss is a piece of software known as a print processor, and it's not the only one like it in the world, but it is a pretty well done piece of software. It adds many things to the printing process out of Sage 300. Another point is that PrintBoss, while the report manager Technosoft we just looked at, that works only with Sage 300. PrintBoss, on the other hand, will work with any software package that can output information that it can retrieve, like a printer. So we can work with other accounting packages, and it is commonly done. So I know I've actually deployed it in a Sage 100 environment, so I know it works in a lot of other places. Okay. Anyway, when it's installed, it appears as another printer on your workstation. So, in fact, it installs a printer driver, which is the printer that would be used when you go to print a document that you want to use PrintBoss with. The server components, if there's a network installation of it, that's all the shared portions of the software is stored on the network. One point to make is a single license of this software is used on a given network. So if you had 50 users that were using it, you would only use one license, assuming they were all on the same network. Okay. On the back up a little bit on the report manager side, the report manager is, again, a single license, and all the Sage 300 users can use it across all the companies. So, all right, now, the original design of this product by Wellspring, because it's been Wellspring forever, but the original design of the software was to print laser checks, print checks on a laser printer, and to print them on blank check stock. Years ago, it was actually sold to work with FBEC Plus, which is the DOS version of the Sage 300 that we use today. And it was quite effective. It worked back then too, very well. The nowadays, it's still used in many organizations to print checks, but it can be used to print other documents. It also has some pretty interesting emailing and faxing and other multi-processing stuff available, which we're going to look at in a moment. Now, this here is what a blank check stock looks like. It's a sample of blank check stock. It's got a check at the bottom. It's an 8.5, 11 by piece of paper, and it's got a check, and it's got 2 advices. And the back of the check exists with the signature line and so on too. When you print it, when PrintBoss, this is what it looks like. So what happens here is, it prints, including the micro line down at the bottom, and all the bank information. It also prints the advice, and up here, when it's printing checks, the second advice is actually a shrunk copy of the entire check and advice. Is the second advice, so it's kind of an interesting thing. So you get the whole picture there. All right, now we're going to have a look at this now, and I'm going to start by taking a look at the software itself here. Now, this guy, I don't need this crystal open anymore. Well, actually, I'll leave it open for now. There are several versions of this software, and the one we're looking at is the one I typically sell. It's enterprise level. There's the standard version and the enterprise level, and many of the features, the advanced features that I'm going to talk about today, are actually really only available appropriately inside the enterprise edition. Some of it can be done inside the standard edition, but there's a lot of missing pieces that make it kind of a pain in the butt. So pretty much when I sell the software, if it's going to do something besides printing checks, I tend to sell the Enterprise Edition. Different pricing, the standard edition is $4.95, the Enterprise Edition is $7.95. Okay, now, inside of here, we have, among other things, a bank list. Now, and this is mostly for printing, well, it's not mostly, it is for printing checks, okay? So, if I want to look at the bank information, I have in here name of the bank. This is the company information that you put in. The micro line, which is really, you're defining what that magnetic ink line is at the bottom of the check. Right? You can also include some miscellaneous information, among other things, a second signature line, signatures and logos, and this software will also create an ACH file, and it's a pretty effective way to pay vendors and employees, for that matter, electronically. It'll create an ACH file which can send to the bank. In fact, it'll not only create the ACH file, it'll send it to the bank for you if you configure it correctly. Okay, now, so for each check form, we define what the bank is that's going to be used with it. Okay, now, looking at forms, and forms are really the basis of what this software does, and it's where everything is stored. Now, looking at, let's see, CAP1, and if I look at view, okay, now here's a form, and you can think of a form, you can think of them as a pre-printed piece of paper, basically. So, because what PrintBoss does, when I print, I have to describe this a little bit. When I print a check out of PrintBoss, using PrintBoss, in a normal accounts payable situation, I print the payables checks out of accounts payable, and the check information that comes out of that is actually kind of like the fill in the blank stuff. And it's sent to the PrintBoss printer, where PrintBoss inserts its overlay. And the overlay is really just like it's creating a pre-printed piece of paper for you to print your document on. Okay? Another example of this would be what we're going to look at in a little bit. Here's an order confirm. Okay. There's actually an invoice too. Another one, just a sample of someone that I did for. Okay. So this is like a pre-printed piece of paper. Now, what's unique about it is if I look at the confirm as an example, and I click on editor. Okay. Now, the confirm, among other things, we have all kinds of settings we can change in here. And among other things, what I want to mention today is this thing about copies. When I have multi-parts and printers. Now, what this is set to do, this particular form, the order confirm, is it's going to print the original to the PrintBoss printer, okay? Or whatever the PrintBoss printer is assigned to. In other words, your actual printer. Copy number one of the same document is going to email it. And copy number two is going to create a PDF file. Okay? So it does all this when you print once, and you send it to this printer. So, and on the PDF side of things, what it's going to do is it's going to save that PDF file on my C drive, on the PDF folder, and it's going to give it the doc number as the name of the file. Okay. Now, let's watch what happens. I'm going to go over to Sage again. We're going to go into order entry. I'm going to pull up an order, and this one right here. Okay. I'm not going to change anything, but I'm going to repost it just so I can print it. Now, a couple things involved. One is we have a crystal report for the order confirm, a special one that I designed. And under print setup, this is set to print to the PrintBoss printer. Remember I said I set up a printer on my workstation. Okay. Now, I'm actually printing the preview. So what you're going to see first is the crystal form coming out of Sage, which is like a fill-in-the-blanks type form. You're going to see it on the screen. And there it is. Okay. So this is got a title, but it's, company address and, who we sold it to and what we sold. Okay. So it's a fill-in-the-blanks. There's no lines, no boxes, no nothing. What this is right here, though, this is actually built inside the crystal report. This is what is known as the PrintBoss trigger. And when I send this document, when I send this printout to the printer known as PrintBoss, PrintBoss reads this information and it's able to do things as a result of it. Okay. So when I'm going to send it to the printer, and it's going to PrintBoss. And I hit print. Okay. Now, I have it configured to pause here so you can see what's going on. Okay. You don't have to have it do this, but I did it just so you can see that this is actually taking place. Okay. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to print the original, and it's going to print it on my printer here in my office. It's going to follow that by emailing it, and I have my email address shown in there. And then it's going to create the PDF file. So I've hit print. Okay, it sent it to my printer. That should show up in a minute. But right now, it also wants to send it to my email address. Okay, and it's got a subject line of the document number. And I've hit send email. So we mailed. Okay. And the last thing it does is it creates a PDF document. Which should look, I guess I can't see that on the screen. What it did is it created a PDF document in my PDF folder. There it is, Order 72. And there's the printed document, PDF. Okay. So, and the printout, of course, looks exactly the same that I take off my printer. But as you can see, it took that fill-in-the-blanks stuff, and it put its overlay, produced it as a PDF. Okay. Now, if I were to, and I said that what I did in PrintBoss was I configured it to pause. So if I set that off, let's see, automatic email pause, I'm going to say never. Actually, I'm going to send it if it's a bad address. Okay. Now, if I print it again, it shows up here. If I send it to the printer, PrintBoss. Now it does show up. How come? Why did it show up like that? All right, well, let's see. I overlooked something here. Maybe it's in the form. Oh, prompt to start printing. There we go. Start printing without prompt. That's what I want. Okay. Now, on top of everything else, I'm going to change my printing destination to printer. So now when I print this, go into the PrintBoss printer. this guy opens up, does some stuff, closes. So that all happened. It sent the email. It's printing on my printer right at the moment, and it created that file again down here. I probably overwrote it. It happened at 2:36, which was just a moment ago. So at any rate, so the point is that all happens in the background. Now, if I go back out here to my email, that's my customer transactions report that I got, that I sent out from Report Manager. I'm not sure what my other ones are. Oh, here we go. Yeah, we got sent a couple of times. So this got sent to me as the email attachment. So, okay. Now, so the point of this is, check Wellspring PrintBoss. Under the forms, and it's pretty much related to the forms where we set this up. And on the multi-parts, we first say how many copies we want, and that opens up the multi-parts portion of it. Now, I can I can have many here. I can have many copies, and each one of these copies can do something different. Now, I can send it to the PrintBoss printer. Positive pay file. That's another thing it does. When I'm doing checks, if I configure it to do so, I can have it create a positive pay file, which is really a record of check numbers and bank account information and who's getting paid and how much. And you send that file to the bank, and the bank only honors your checks that exist in that file. So it's kind of a secure way to make sure that no one's doing anything bogus with your checks. So about as secure way as I can think of, actually. Now, Fax Service. Well, we have Fax Service and we got PrintBoss Fax, PDF file. We don't know what that, but Fax Service is Wellspring has a service that allows us to fax this document as well. So you can not only email it, but you can fax it. And of course email, which we have set up here. Also the different printers that are available become available here. And if I tell it that I want to print to a particular printer, I can tell it what tray on that printer to print to. Now, what this means is that, as an example, for things like packing list or picking list, well, I might have them printing in the back office, and if I print it through PrintBoss, I can have the warehouse version of that print out on the printer in the warehouse, about a tray too, that printer in the warehouse. Okay. At the same time, it's printing at my printer in my office up front. So you have that kind of flexibility. You can send the copies to different places. In fact, one of the original purposes of the design of this software was that to replace dot matrix forms. So if you're old enough to remember, of course, the dot matrix printers, they had typically printed multi-copy forms. They were carbonless forms typically. Sometimes they were carbon, but you might have an original in 4, and they were, you're printing a packing list for 4 different things. One's a file copy, one's for the warehouse, one's for the customer, and so on and so forth. So, well, with a laser printer, you can't do that. You don't have this carbonless multi-copy stuff. So, what we do is use PrintBoss, and we actually print to the same document to multiple printers with multiple trays. So So I might have, if I'm doing original and 3 as an example, I might have 2 laser printers, each with 2 trays, and each tray has a different color paper in it. And I tell it to print original to printer 1, tray 1. Next copy, printer 2, and so on and so forth. So you pick up the 4 different trays. So that's what is part of its original design now, and it's pretty effective. So it allows us to replicate what happened back then with the dot matrix printers on the laser printers. You can also, I've got it set to do black and white, but you can change it to do, I have it set to do in color. You can also do black and white. I do that for the sake of the PDFs because many of the logos are in color. Now, so that's kind of like how much further I want to go here, but the faxing. Oh, not only do you have a fax service, which is offered by PrintBoss, it's an internet service where it actually sends it to them and they fax the document for you. You can also send it to a fax board. The fax board is typically expected to be on the local machine. So if you're doing it from the workstation, the fax board would typically be treated as another printer. And how you send the fax number and so on changes depending on the manufacturer of the fax board. Now, we'll work with a server-based fax too, but it's a bit more involved. And again, it depends on what the fax machine is, what the fax board is design is. So, okay, now, so that's kind of an overview of that. Now, there's options from the security standpoint, from the fax machine standpoint, from the email standpoint. In here, we also have a place where we go through a printer setup. Now, what this means is that, I said the PrintBoss is actually acts like a printer, and then that's how Sage sees it and how Crystal sees it. Well, it intercepts the job, so you send it to the PrintBoss printer. Well, once PrintBoss has done its magic, if it needs to send it to a printer, it needs to know what printer to send to. And this is where we define what printer to send to, unless it's specified inside the form. In other words, in the form we just looked at a minute ago, I specified that the original go to the default PrintBoss printer, which is what I just mentioned. In other words, that's set up over here. Now, from the standpoint of installation, pretty straightforward. It's typically loaded on the network server and then installed on the workstation. And it's just like a setup routine that installs the PrintBoss driver on the workstation, and then which is just another printer, really. And then you just configure from there. Now, one piece that's kind of interesting is that the forms themselves, they work in conjunction with the Crystal reports. Now, under let's see. No. Let me see if I can find it now. PrintBoss, here it is. Okay. PrintBoss provides a bunch of specs with the system. By specs, they're talking about Crystal reports. So, they have a bunch of order entries and purchase order and check forms. And if you are going to use PrintBoss with an order entry form as an example, I would tend to start with the PrintBoss form provided by Wellspring. For instance, here's a confirm. Look at this one. Here's a confirm, and it's a fill in the blanks type stuff. You see no lines, no boxes, no nothing on there. But inside of this form, among other things, we have these fields here. I don't know if you can see this. Print's kind of small, but your PrintBoss amount, PrintBoss doc, PrintBoss form, receipt, and trigger totals. Okay, now, under doc formula, that is, whoops, I'm sorry, form. Under the form formula is where we tell it what form inside of PrintBoss to use. And it's a form called CA-Con1. Okay, well, if I look at the forms in here, I would find CA, there it is, CA-Con1. If I look at that, this is what the form looks like. It would work with this crystal report. So remember I said when we first looked at it, and it showed you a line that I called the PrintBoss trigger, that it was telling PrintBoss to do stuff. Well, this is the contents of that triggers. Okay? And it sends over things like what form inside of PrintBoss is to be used, which overlay. It also sends things like if you were going to email it, it would send the email information, through the destination email. Likewise, the fax number if you're going to send faxing. So it's an important component of it, and it's actually sitting right here inside of this form. Well, it's a little tiny, but so anyway, so that's how the PrintBoss gets to understand it. And again, the crystal reports provided by PrintBoss, together with the forms inside of PrintBoss, is what makes it happen. Another interesting one that I can show you real quick, and then I'm going to kind of open up for questions. But this is one. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. This one is a packing slip. I actually built it for Omaha Door and Window, and it has a back side. So in other words, front of the page, back of the page. So you can actually design forms inside of PrintBoss to print on both sides of the paper. Of course, you have to have a double-sided printer, but that's another piece you can do. Now, you can actually build a form in here that can be used as letterhead, because you don't have to be sending the printout from Sage 300. It might be out of Microsoft Word. As long as the trigger and the appropriate stuff is in there, it will use that form as an overlay, like a pre-printed piece of paper. So, all right. So I guess I'm going to wrap up here and open up for questions if we have any.
So you're telling me, Dana, that it doesn't have to be a Crystal Reports
Right.
Accounting system. It could be any accounting system. It could be Microsoft Word for that.
That's right. It has to be able to send the PrintBoss trigger information, the appropriate information inside the report that's being used, with the overlay form. So, you have to be able to manage that. But assuming, it doesn't have to be Chris, it could be anything. And as I said, I have done this with Sage 100, so I know it can be done. I've actually done it with an accounting software that was work with Salesforce. I forget the name of it now. It was a long time ago. But I was actually reading CSV files and creating checks out of it, printing checks. So.
And you can call the same form to print multiple copies, but can you trigger multiple forms to be printed? And here's why. We have companies that print the sales order report, but based on conditions, there may be a custom document, there may be a final shipper document, there may be shipper papers to reach when it reaches Europe. So there's actually a commercial invoice as well as the invoice. there's actually several documents, up to 5 that I know of, that are produced from a single sales order, sales invoice.
Yeah.
But that different fields come off and on the form.
Mm-hmm. Well, the documents when I'm in PrintBoss and I'm printing multiple copies of the document, it's actually printing multiple copies of the same document.
Same document, yeah, that's right.
Okay. So and that although those documents might look a little bit different, they're all starting with the same data from the accounting software. So
yeah, okay. So you can't unless you have some kind of, no, you can't, because there's no logic that PrintBoss is going to apply to. It's just taking your form, your data already. You've made it, you've sent it. Now it's going to apply the same form to it, or and make multiple copies. It's not going to apply your logic inside your form and Crystal and say, well, if it's on page 2, now use form 3. If it's on page 7, now use form 1.
No, I wouldn't do that. Although you might be able to do that. I hadn't tried that before, but inside of Crystal is where we put the trigger. And if I put a different trigger on the second page, then we would use a different form, which could do something differently and look different. So that's possible. But I think it would kind of depend on the situation as to whether it would be really a clean use for it or not. But,
okay.
So, but generally the forms, are used in a multi-copy situation, but they're doing different things, with the same information. So that's generally how it works. Now, whether we could change it by form, we may be able to do that. I'd have to think that through, depending on the situation, what we're trying to do. The forms themselves, as I pointed out, you can have two-sided forms. You can also have, I can also tell it to do something different on other copies. I don't have a good example of that. For instance, the title. Remember that this is like a pre-printed piece of paper, so I can put text on here too.
Okay, you can.
So,
okay.
So I could say file copy, customer copy, what have you. So, the rest of it might look the same. I can also blank out columns.
Okay.
So I might, and I'm sure you got packing lists where it's all hash marked out, all the pricing and stuff. But you can do that type of thing.
Okay.
So that'd be a significant difference between the two, and that could be done. That's fairly straightforward. So.
Okay. A positive pay. Positive pay is a CSV file. Every bank has a different positive pay format. You can change your positive pay formats?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Let me look at this one. I got PDS. I got miscellaneous. Where is it now? Design time. Actually, multi-parts. When I hit positive pay file, I get another hang up here. We're closed. Let's see. So the PrintBoss printer.
Design time on this end?
Yeah, I think it is. It's one of these places. It's I'd have to look back at it. I don't have a good example. Oh, positive pay can be embedded in the form, or it can be done.
Simple bank spec. I see it.
Yeah.
They got bank spec.
Yeah,
Okay. So you can specify specifications. Got it.
I forget where it is. But anyway, the point is it does permit you to change that. In fact, it's the same holds true with the ACH.
Mm-hmm.
So you can create an ACH file, but that's defined inside the form too. It's all inside the forms. Everything's inside the forms.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what else to talk about here? Examine you can when you're printing checks, you can have it sign the checks for you too. And the way that's treated is it uses an encrypted graphic file, which is typically stored on a USB stick. So it's treated like a stamp, like a signature stamp. So when you go to print checks, if you want to include the signature on the checks when you're printing them, that USB stick has to be loaded in the port on the workstation that you're printing from. Then so it has access to it, so it can print the signatures. You can also have it print signature under conditions. So I might let it to print a signature on the checks if they're less than $500, as an example. Okay. You can also add a second signature line on a check, and you can do that conditionally too. So if I have, if the check is for more than $5,000, it requires 2 signatures. So you can do that type of thing. So, there's a lot you can do with it actually. When you're looking at the forms, it's designing the forms can be kind of an interesting event. You can do it from here, and insert objects. You can put barcodes and grids and that sort of thing anywhere on the form. But you can also modify that form inside of here. Like these are the runtime, what's called the runtime screens, right? And the sold toolbox. This is all doing it textually as opposed to graphically. And many times you end up going in here making some fine adjustments. But as an example here, it's printing text at, let's see, I think that's 2.43 inches from the left. And it's using Arial 8 point and putting the PO number there, the text PO number. So if I were to look at that on the screen, as was printing this right here. But, I mean, you can add it on the screen, too. It's a graphics designer tool. It's pretty good. Anyway, if you sell the product, then or you buy it, for that matter, the modification of the forms and getting it organized to work as people desire, or they're doing email or PDFs, or whether they're just printing the forms. There's, a fair amount of work there in many cases. And, typically if they use it in order entry, as an example, they'll also use it in purchase order. And, they'll use it for all the forms. You can even do things like email accounts receivable statements, that type of thing. So, anyway, I think that's pretty much all I got. There's no other questions. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll sign off.
Bob Aubrey, did you get your question answered?
Say it again?
I think Bob Aubrey had a question.
Okay.
I got it in the chat.
Oh. All right. Well,
Dana, do you need to make the report in Crystal first and then use Report Manager?
Oh, yes, yes. I did answer that.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
At the early part of the presentation, I said the Crystal report must exist before you use it inside of Report Manager. So, but yes, that said I answered that question. All right. Well, I'm going to end here. And hopefully everybody has a terrific rest of their day, and I hope you
All
got
right, well,
something out of
thank
it.
you very much.
That was good. That was good, Dana.